Springfield's Talk 1041. Hey, everyone. Had a good Thursday morning. Hope things are going well as you start off your day. Those of you that have the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line is 417-447-KSGF. If you'd like to text in any thoughts, we'll have Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books, coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. Christy Fulnecki will join us, and I had texted her. Well, let me just pull up the exact text here. That way, if things turn out differently, you'll have it straight from the horse's text. I had on Tuesday, she was sending me updated articles on Samantha, her daughter's coverage regarding the situation at Oklahoma University. And I said, do you want her to call in during your segment Thursday? And she said, yeah, I will. And followed by a lot of other information as well. So it's my understanding that she will also be with us. We'll, I guess, reach out to her.
I also had this same conversation with her either Wednesday or Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
So I think she is going to join us. Seeing the fact that she told both of us that.
Right. Well, I didn't, for whatever reason, officially put it down on the calendar or anything, and I'm guessing just because if Christy's here, it seems like, well, it's probably going to happen. I mean,
right.
It's her daughter, so this should not be a problem. But we'll see. We shall see. Who knows? Maybe we'll call and she'll be asleep and half awake.
She was on the top of the hour town hall news.
Oh, was she?
Samantha, yeah.
It's funny because obviously not everyone is following everything that goes on all of the time. And I'll still randomly, yesterday, I got a couple of text messages from people. Does Christy Fulnecki have a daughter that goes?
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, that's her. And then yesterday, while doing some Christmas decorating, the wife was telling me about a conversation she had with someone, about the whole thing. And the girl child was on the couch, and she looked up and she goes, wait, that's who that is? And we're like, yeah. And she said, I did not know that was it. She's met, obviously, I think every one of the Fulnecki kids, but, not around them enough to really know them that well. But she was like, holy cow, I had no idea that was her. So anyhow, when we have Christy Fulnecki, Samantha, hopefully will be joining us as well. And I just wonder really weird things. I'm wondering if she has not been, given proposals from conservative guys. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just, here's a strong, independent, conservative woman standing up for her beliefs. She's an attractive gal. So that there's all these, probably older guys that are a little perverted as well, that are trying to find her on social media, ask her if she has a boyfriend, see if she wants to go on dates. So I have no idea what her relationship status is, but I've in my mind, I'm wondering, has she been inundated with guys that are reaching out and hey, just wondering if
you'll have to ask her.
Yeah, I will. Maybe
that should
I
be
will.
Question number one.
That should be the lead question. And focused almost entirely on that.
There you go.
But incidentally, if there are any questions that you are curious or want us to ask her, you can text them in on the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line 447-KSGF, and we may ask them. Obviously, probably won't go through all of them, but if you do have one that seems like it's a good fit, then we'll go ahead and ask her that question when she joins us. I'm wondering, in my mind, I like to play things out, and I think about the media and Democrats going apoplectic over Trump and talking about, how horrible Somalia is and people who import that culture, how we don't need them here. And so immediately Trump is racist, and then they go to do research on Somalia to see what it's like, because they couldn't tell you anything about it whatsoever. And then they start reading, and then they quietly just decide, well, I don't really want to worry about this anymore because it is a hellhole. One of the funny things that is a complete and total contradiction that you get from the left when it comes to an issue like this. And Trump noting just what a piece of crap place Somalia is, and culturally how horrible it is the people who claim that it is our moral and sole responsibility, like it's solely upon us as a nation, to allow unlimited number of people from Somalia into the United States. What's their reason? What is their always their reason? It's because they have no other choice, because they are fleeing for their lives. That things in their culture are so horrific that their only chance for a better life, for even survival, is to flee all the way across the world to the United States. And you have no idea how horrible it is there. You have no idea what a nightmare it is for anyone who is a good person that lives there and so forth. And so they have to come here. But then the minute somebody like Donald Trump notes what a piece of crap place it is, and how it's run by horrible people, and it's an awful culture, essentially recognizing what it is that the left claims about it, all of a sudden, how dare you say that about these people? How dare you talk about that country in this way? It was similar when, you may recall, during this first administration, and he was quoted as saying, or maybe even somebody got audio of it, he was talking about countries like Somalia and something he called them pieces of blank countries. Do you remember that? There was this huge uproar over, how can he say that about these countries? And it was just so demeaning and so racist to refer to these third world countries as pieces of blank. And the whole time not realizing that's your justification for us accepting unlimited people from those countries, is that they're so horrible, it is hell on earth, and they must come here, until Donald Trump says it, and then suddenly it's the Garden of Eden. It's the most wonderful place ever. How could you ever say anything so insulting about the place? Now, some are going to argue, well, that's not, Trump was talking about all Somalis. That he wasn't talking about the culture. Yes, he was. This is where adults need to have adult conversations. Now, I can fully acknowledge that Trump is like Wreck-It Ralph sometimes when it comes to articulating a message, and he says things very bluntly, very New York City style, that easily can be taken out of context for nefarious purposes, and even at times by people who, may not even be looking to make him out to sound bad. But like I said, he's not artful at times in articulating his message. But if you genuinely, truly want to know what the meaning is behind what he's saying, it's not difficult to figure out because of the context of the entire conversation. The context of the conversation is about the fraudsters and the criminals who are taking billions of tax dollars for the purposes of lining their own pockets, funding terrorism. That is what is being discussed here. And so when that is that's the whole reason any of this has even been talked about. It's the only reason that Minnesota is being talked about right now, that Tim Walz is being discussed right now, that Somalis are being discussed right now, is because of people in that community that have been illegally defrauding the American taxpayer. And so when Trump, perhaps inarticulately, says, Somalis, we don't need that garbage here, I don't want those people here, intelligent people can recognize what he's talking about. He didn't decide to randomly start talking about every single person who happens to be from Somalia. In fact, he specifically cited Ilhan Omar. And noting that in describing her, he's talking about people who come to this country from a horrible, horrible place, and then all they do is complain about it here. and saying what, frankly, I think a lot of people, even those that don't want to say it out loud, feel is, yeah, you don't have to be here. No one forced you to be here. It's like, just having an open house or, a restaurant, and then somebody comes in and all they do is just complain and tell you how awful it is and they can't stand being here. And you're like, well, then here's an idea. Why don't you leave and make room for somebody at a table who actually wants to be here? And then they act indignant that you would dare ask them to leave. Like, why are you here? Why? I think that's actually the better question. Instead of phrasing it, why, why don't you go back to your original home? Why don't you try and fix that place instead of coming here? Is simply to ask, why are you here? Why are you in a place that you clearly have a great distaste for? I want to share with you, there's a great guest editorial in the it's the dispatch.com. Is this the I don't think it's the Tribune. I'll look up the exact source of it, but anyhow, it's from a refugee from Somalia rather. And he is someone who came to the States long ago, and he is someone that is writing in response to all of this. And to me, it is, if you have a room of people that are all yelling at each other, you got this one side, it's like, they're bad, send them back. And then you got this other side, like, how dare you, you're awful. Rah, rah, rah. And then there's this lone voice, and he's softly speaking. And he's saying, let me tell you what's really going on here. It's an adult in the room who really lays out, here is what is happening. And I think it's very important. It's also very easy to understand. And I want to share that here in just a couple of moments. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we have a slight chance of flurries after 4 p.m., otherwise partly sunny with a high near 34. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 23. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 47. And taking a look at Saturday, mostly sunny with a high near 49.
Happy Honda Days happening now. Yes, now. It's model year in clearance. Got to get rid of the 2025 models. 90 days, no payments, new vehicles. That means till March. You know, when things are thawing out, you're thinking, ooh, it's warm enough to not have to wear a jacket outside. 25 Honda Pilot, model year in clearance, $1,500 sales credit, rates as low as 3.49%. No payment until March. The 25 Honda Ridgeline, $3,000 sales credit, rates as low as 0.99%. No payments until March. 25 Honda Accord, $329 a month. And they have a number of great leasing deals as well. I know some people are leasers. I've always been a buyer. I like the idea of having it paid off and then just keeping it, not having payments for a while. And it's just my driving style and habits that tends to work a little bit better. But for some people, leasing is the route. And part of the Honda holidays is some incredible leasing deals as well. So a little something for everyone. Pre-owned, brand new, rebates, no payments, 90 days. Lots of stuff with the Pinnaker family. Pinnaker Honda, South Campbell, just south of Walnut Lawn. Ohio Dispatch, is that where you or the Columbus Dispatch?
The Columbus Dispatch.
I thought this was a fantastic piece that was published in the Columbus Dispatch by Ali Guban Muhammad, titled, "I Survived Somali's Dictator Rule, U.S. Refugee Vetting Flawed. Opinion." He writes, news of the years-long scandals involving the massive welfare fraud of the Somali community in Minnesota has stunned many Americans. President Donald Trump has used it to justify calling Somalis garbage, and Minnesota, home to the nation's largest Somali community, ahead of Columbus, a hub of fraudulent money laundering activity. For those who lived under Mohammed Siad Barre's Marxist dictatorship in Somalia, the welfare fraud scandal itself feels grimly familiar. Patterns of patronage, racketeering, and outright theft of public and foreign aid money concealed from outsiders were a way of life for regime loyalists. When Saeed Barre seized power in a 1969 coup, he tore up the Constitution, consolidated rule through a vast security apparatus, and systemized clan favoritism, public contracts, U.S. aid meant for the vulnerable, and refugee assistance often went to regime insiders. At the same time, suspected dissenters faced arbitrary detention, torture, or disappearance at the hands of the National Security Service. As opposition grew, the state weaponized these dynamics with increasing brutality. By the late 1980s, officials accused the Isaaq clan in the north of aiding the Somali National Movement, a rebel group fighting for democracy, unleashing campaigns of mass violence. Human rights organizations estimate tens of thousands of Isaaq civilians were murdered. Hundreds of thousands driven to exile, as cities like Hargeisa were devastated by bombardment. The United States, prioritizing Cold War alliances at the time, supplied Barre with more than $2 billion throughout his rule. Repression culminated in the summer of 1989. Government troops opened fire on peaceful protests in Mogadishu, killing roughly 400 people then and wounding about 1,000, according to the Washington Post. The next night, under orders from General Malsa Mohammed Saeed Barre, Barre's son and military chief, elite Red Beret units numbering 5,000 from Siad Barre's Darad Mahrayan clan conducted midnight raids that seized and executed more than 145 Isaaq men at Jazeera Beach. The atrocity is remembered as the Jazeera Beach Massacre. When Barre's government collapsed in January of 1991, chaos ignited the country. Some perpetrators and top officials quietly blended into refugees, sometimes using fake birth dates and names, vanishing into the diaspora. One such figure, Colonel Abdi Aden Magan, a former NSS chief, was only discovered years later in 2002 by a torture survivor and held liable in a U.S. court in Columbus, Ohio, underscoring serious vetting failures. In Central Ohio, former regime enforcers, including Ayanle Siad Barre, a former national security advisor and former Red Beret soldier, live openly in Columbus, Ohio, recognized by survivors in stores and mosques. Now think about that for a moment. You flee a country like Somalia because of what would be at the time the equivalent of top Nazi soldiers, people that really truly do make family members disappear in the night. They're known for mass slaughter. They're known for torturing. They are seen in the nightmares of the people of the community, and they flee to the United States only to see some of those very people welcomed into this country, walking around in their neighborhoods, being protected. Mass migration. Now, again, for those who are just joining in, we'll get this whole opinion piece posted. This is posted by a Somali refugee to the United States. Mass migration from states affected by corruption, clan conflict, and endemic violence inevitably carries risks. Some individuals may attempt to reproduce the same corrupt networks or predatory behaviors they practice in their country of origin. Some cases within the Somali diaspora illustrate how these patterns of clan patronage, racketeering, bribery, and illicit economic activity can reemerge here in the United States. In Minnesota, federal prosecutors describe a $250 million scheme using shell nonprofits, fabricated meal counts, and fake invoices to defraud children nutrition funds intended for American children. These facts echo not just bureaucratic oversight, but the habits of exploitation ingrained under dictatorships. Public money intended for the needy diverted by insiders, the vulnerable left unprotected, and leaders reluctant to act out of fear of controversy. Minnesota Democratic leaders, wary of offending core voters, seemed to keep a blind eye or were hesitant to confront these realities. U.S. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, whose district was ground zero for the fraud, minimized the issue and reframed federal prosecutors as racial targeting, even after dozens of Somali individuals were charged, convicted, and sentenced. She dares to accuse a duly elected president, that would be Trump, of acting like a dictator, and warns that the United States is sliding into dictatorship. But as someone who lived under a dictatorship, I can say plainly, America is not Somalia under Saad Barre. But Ilhan Omar rarely acknowledges the uncomfortable presence of Barre-era enforcers in her own community. Perhaps because her late father was a colonel who served under the dictator's military, or her loyalty to her tribal enclave, Puntland. She holds a rare platform to demand accountability, but is yet to use it fully. This is not about stigmatizing Somali Americans as a whole. Somali Americans overwhelmingly work hard, take pride in their communities, and love this country. I'm grateful to America for providing the security and opportunities that were not available in my birthplace, Mogadishu. The United States has the tools to confront the broken refugee vetting problems. Immigration authorities should re-examine refugee and naturalization files linked to the Barre-era military, intelligence, and security structures, using updated country expertise and modern databases. Officials should work with Somali human rights groups, survivor networks, and scholars to document units, facilities, and chains of command associated with past abuses. When concealment or fraud is confirmed, the Justice Department should employ existing legal remedies, including denaturalization. Finally, we must ensure that America's promise to protect the persecuted is never extended to their persecutors, to the fraudsters, or those who exploit our generosity. Refugee vetting must be both compassionate and effective, and our leaders must have the courage to ensure accountability. Again, that was Ali Guban Muhammad, and he is a refugee from Somalia some time ago. In fact, he's the founder and editor of Guban Media, an online source of news and commentary about the Horn of Africa based in the Lewis Center. Now, there's a number of aspects about this that are significant and important, and want to just hit on them here in a couple of moments. Do have to take a break. Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line is 447 KSGF. Heroes Breakfast tomorrow. Scramblers, join us 6A to 9A. And if you are a veteran, you're going to get a free breakfast. That thanks to Delta Roofing. Scramblers, of course, air services, heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical, and the Warrior's Journey. Then we are going to have a holiday happy hour at our new happy hour location. We debuted it, if you will, last time around, and that is Vineyard Market in Ozark. Incredible folks over there. What makes it a holiday happy hour? Well, it's the holidays, silly. So we'd love for you to come by, and it's just a come and go as you please. Whether you want to have dinner or just some drinks, maybe a cigar if you'd like. Just go crazy. It's completely up to you what you do. And the important thing is that we'll all be coming together, and 4 to 6 o'clock is the window. Now, once 6 o'clock rolls around, you don't have to leave. The place doesn't shut down, but that's the time that we will officially be having our happy hour tomorrow from 4 to 6 at Vineyard Market.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see a slight chance of flurries after 4 p.m., otherwise partly sunny skies with a high near 34. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 23. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 47. And taking a look at Saturday, mostly sunny with a high near 49.
I read in the previous segment an opinion piece that was in the Columbus Dispatch. This is Ohio, and it was from a survivor of Somali's dictator rule, commenting on everything that's going on, and noting that, and some of this should be such common sense. Anytime, and this is somebody that's speaking from experience. You export people from a particular culture and import those people into another area. That culture, in all likelihood, is going to, it's just going to naturally come along with them, unless, of course, there's something that prevents that from occurring. And what he lays out in his editorial, that what has occurred here, that is what has occurred here in the United States, because as we have, particularly in Minnesota, imported people from that culture, we have not prevented the bad parts of the culture from being reestablished here. In fact, not only, as we've learned, have we not prevented it, we have protected it. He lays out, essentially what he says is what has happened in Minnesota is exactly what happened and what happens in dictatorships and what happened in the dictatorship in Somalia, which is why it's replicated in Minnesota within the Somali community, because they've, instead of leaving, how they say you can take the, guy out of Texas, but not Texas out of the guy, or whatever the saying is. When those people left Somalia, they brought that part of Somalia with them because that's what they knew. And there was no assimilation because assimilation was not required. In fact, the opposite occurred. And so what he explained would occur in dictatorships is, you'd have all this money that would come in, and a lot of it, by the way, from the United States. And it's supposed to be for humanitarian purposes. But guess what? That's not what it's used for, because it's a dictatorship. And what do dictators do? Or the more powerful government is, that money goes to friends. It goes to corrupt individuals. And there may be just a little bit that just for the purposes of cover, that actually is utilized for the intended purpose, but the vast majority of it, because of the corruption, instead goes to corruption. Well, that's exactly what's been going on in Minnesota. The exact same thing. Except instead of the dictator of Somalia that is allowing it to happen or directing it to happen, it was Tim Walz. There could be different arguments as to why. Some are arguing. In fact, the Washington Post is calling him out. I think Tim Walz is finding himself increasingly without allies in this. The most benign explanation, it was for political survival, which arguably is why dictators do it as well. But the Somali community is very important when it comes to voting, and that was a constituency that Tim Walz recognized was important for his election, for his reelection, so he continued to allow the money to be funneled into all of these illegal paths, some of which apparently may have involved terrorism, because he did not want to have that constituency turn against him. And so it was for the purpose of power. Again, same reason dictators do it. It's for power. It may be a more benign power, maybe a, quote, softer power, but nonetheless, it is utilizing dollars that are meant for good purposes, noble purposes, and instead allowing it or facilitating it to go to bad guys in order to help keep your place in power. Now, the problem, and this is what, I mean, it seems like it always works this way. The really, really bad people find their biggest allies are on the left and in the Democrat Party because they use them. Well, and when it comes to public outcry, I do believe a lot of the useful idiots, if you will, that are on social media and that are going to be protesting. I'm sure in Springfield there'll be some new Somali signs, signs that say humans aren't garbage. These are the useful idiots that have no idea what's going on, no clue whatsoever. And the corrupt, bad people use that. They use those people. And it's why they're allowed to survive. And here's the kicker of it. Who is it that ultimately, I mean, if you want to create a hierarchy of victimhood here, who really ultimately is the greatest victim? One could argue that it is the good Somali people that came here to the United States to avoid this, to get away from this very form of corruption. Now, of course, it was much more dangerous there as well, again, with the slaughtering of anyone that was seen as political opposition. But when it came to all of this, and this is part of the culture that intelligent people are talking about in the Somali community, this is not unusual to them. This is the way of life. And because no one said, that's not how we do things here, but instead people like Tim Walz said, oh, no, this is exactly how we do things here, this is not a change for them. And anyone who comes along and says, yeah, no, this is not how we do things, they're called racist. Ilhan Omar and others are out there on the warpath. This is all about racism. Who does that protect? It protects the bad guys who are harming the good Somalis. Because, every single one of these dollars that was stolen or diverted was supposed to go to a hungry Somali child, was supposed to go to an autistic Somali child. They're the ones who this money, ultimately was, of course, stolen from the taxpayers, but it was supposed to go to good, and those people never got it. You would think that the bleeding hearts on the left, who care so much about the Somalis, you should be the ones who are most outraged by this. You should be the ones demanding that Tim Walz be held accountable for allowing hundreds of millions, perhaps billions of dollars that was supposed to go to the needy instead go to the well-off and corrupt. You people on the left at some point have got to wake up and understand that you are the useful idiots of the absolute corrupt, and you're running around, you're virtue signaling with these signs, and you're going to, and I just know it, Somalis are people too, they aren't garbage, and when you are the ones who are supporting a system that screws those people over. The people who should be the most angry about this, the people who should be demanding people go to prison for this, the people who should be demanding that Tim Walz be held accountable and perhaps even go to prison for this, are you people on the left. But you will not. And if you don't know why, let me enlighten you, because you don't really care about those people. You are in a tribe, just like the people of Somalia once fled, and you've picked a side, and it doesn't matter what the side does, it doesn't matter whether the side runs contrary to what you said you support, you will support that side. And that side is whatever's the opposite of Donald Trump, whatever's the opposite of Republicans, and if there is a D next to the name Tim Walz, and of course he was Kamala Harris's vice presidential candidate, it does not matter how many children went hungry or autistic care autistic children went without care because of his corruption, you will still support him. And you will be completely against anyone who says we have got to get rid of the people who are responsible for this. The upside-down world we live in is the people who are actively trying and will continue to actively try to make sure that the victims are no longer victims. They're the ones that are portrayed as evil and horrible and racist. While the people who are the tools that allow those individuals to be victims and who allow the corrupt to continue to be corrupt and steal that money, those are the people that will be painted as caring and compassionate. Well, you are. It's just for the wrong side. Let's get a traffic update. I'm Nick Reed. There's just so much irony all over this situation with the massive fraud that was facilitated by the Democrat Party, specifically Tim Walz, and the corrupt segment of the Somali community. And, why should they change when their way of life is facilitated by the governor of the state? And we know there were hundreds of people in government who their actual job, like they were in it being told, hey, your job is to help make sure that autistic kids get this money, make sure that hungry kids get this money. And they're so excited because guess what? You get a massive budget increase. Then all of a sudden it's not there. Where did it go? Why did it go to this person? Why did it go over there? Who are these people? What's going on? And so they go to Tim Walz and he punishes them, which, by the way, is somewhat reflective of I read an op-ed piece from a refugee from Somalia talking about how corruption works in a dictatorship, and part of it is anyone who is seen as against the system gets punished for it. Now, in Somalia, it was execution. In Minnesota, according to these people that were trying to get this problem remedied, it was Tim Walz threatening, them, their livelihoods, their families. And like I said, there's just under, I think, 500 of these government employees who have said, this isn't anything new. We have been saying this for a long time now. This corruption is so out in the open. And here's the mayor of Minneapolis. He's a left-winger, Democrat mayor. Jacob Frey, responding to calls to nip this thing in the bud and get rid of the people who are part of the problem.
That's not American. That's not what we are about. And we're going to do right by every single person in our cities. And so, to our Somali community, Daman Shabka, Somalied Kunul, Minnesota, Garahan, Minneapolis, Waan, Kuji Janilahai, Waan, Ku Gereb, Taganahan.
He sounds real fluent. Now imagine this. I think most of you would say that of all of the Somalis who had come here for a better life, that's really desperately what they wanted. They wanted to get away from the corruption. They wanted to get away from the favoritism. They wanted to get away from the politicians that threaten retribution if you blow the whistle on them. They wanted to get away from everything that was horrific about their country. And then they come to the United States. And what do they get? As the opinion piece noted from the political refugee, there have some of the worst warlords in Somalia came in as refugees and walk amongst these people. One was finally held accountable several years ago in Ohio for torture, largely, and other war crimes committed in Somalia. So these people that we're told the left cares so much about come here, they find amongst them and protected the people they tried to flee. They learn that many of those individuals are getting millions and millions and millions of dollars under the watchful eye of the top official of the state, the governor. They know when somebody tries to report it, there are threats of retribution. Like everything a repeat. Everything that they tried to flee, minus the mass murder of political opposition. And then whenever the mayor of Minneapolis comes, then they hear the Somali language, the same tongue that was spoken to them by the corrupt people of Somalia that they fled. That's really compassion? It's like you hear these horror stories of children that get taken out of homes because they're abused, and then the foster home they end up in, it's just a repeat of what they were in before. And you think, well, how god-awful is that? Here you think you're finally saved and you're in a safe place, and then you're just living the same life over again. That's essentially what's going on here. Again, minus the mass murder, you've got, I mean, there's, of course, the crime problem of any Democrat-run city, but the political mass murder, minus that, all of this is what these people fled. The good ones that we're told we're supposed to care about. Well, protecting the system that they fled, being here and operational in the United States, that is not compassion. Outside of complete political party change and a strong Republican will in Minnesota, none of this corruption is going to change. And it won't change for a couple of reasons. One, because Trump is one of those behind the push to change things. And because of his, what some would consider to be inarticulate way of defining whom the problem really is. That is, not every single Somali. Many of the Somalis in the United States are victims of this. It makes it so easy for people who hate Donald Trump to grab onto it and accuse him of racism. And any care and compassion they may actually have for victims is so overridden by hatred for Trump that is going to be the route they go. Plus, let's be honest, Democrats thrive on corruption. They just do. That's why they love big government, because the bigger the government is, the more room there is for corruption. We've got Christy Fulnecki in the upcoming hour and news in 60 seconds. I'm Nick Reed. Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor, months away from springtime, yet it will get here. And right now, you may still be in that glad I don't have to mow the lawn anymore phase. But if you're like me, once the weather starts getting nice and you're like, I'm really going to take good care of my yard this year, and we're going to spend a lot of time outdoors, but oftentimes your outdoor isn't really accommodating to spend outside. I mean, you can get a lawn chair and sit in the middle of the yard and just look around if you want, or you can have an actual outdoor living space like we had developed, created, designed, and put into place by Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor. Ours is for our needs. It's just fantastic. It's sitting space. It's a smokeless fire pit, got an area for seating, of course, had a big hammock in one area of it, and it was just perfect for our needs. Yours may be much more extensive. You may want to have an area where you can watch television and have outdoor kitchen, running water. Whatever it is that you envision they can do, they are the absolute top in the area, which is one of the reasons that you need to plan ahead. If you're thinking, yeah, we want this done in a month, not going to happen with Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor because they are in high demand for those who want the absolute best. So springtime, if that is a time that you're thinking be great to get that project underway, I would reach out to them now. You can get in contact with them at hunterhardscapes.com. Also under Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com. Christy Fulnecki is with us.
Yes, good morning, good morning.
Kind of busy for your family. A bunch of troublemakers over there. Just birthing out. Got them troublemakers.
Yeah.
Apple not falling far from that tree.
Yeah. And if you thought you were going to get rid of me, then I have a whole group of offspring that will carry on the
It's just
torch.
like, it's just, yeah. You're the answer to the Soros family. People are like, wait, George Soros has a son? Man,
I know,
we thought
that's
once
right.
he was gone, like, oh, and guess what? There's 5 other Fulnecki kids
Yes,
in
we have
addition.
6.
Yeah.
Search my voice. Of course, this is not a good week to get a cold. So I've done interviews. I've been in court every day. But I don't know. The people that normally listen to the show know what I sound like.
Yeah, that's true.
And we have a lot of other people listening to the show.
And we would like to
Yes.
welcome you. I'm
And thank
sure
you.
that
For the people that support and the thousands of haters that I've heard from.
well, this would be my
Guess,
message.
let me just say something.
Yeah, okay.
Guess how much I care about the haters. You obviously do not know me. And then I'll have to tell the story about I jumped on Twitter. I couldn't help it.
Oh, and
Okay,
by the way, we
go
weren't for sure, but Samantha is not going to be joining us this morning. That's what I understand because she's
Maybe
whenever it's
school
convenient.
gets out,
Yeah.
she can come in person.
That
too.
actually let's just do that. Have her in studio. That's
You wanna do
so
that?
much better anyway.
She has an organic chemistry test, so that she's in the middle of finals, and so she is studying for that right now, and it's this morning. The test is so.
And we'll talk some about this and explain what happened because a lot of people. The news is, oh, here she's a Christian and wrote a paper and she's being discriminated. So people don't know what the assignment was, what she did versus what she was. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
sure.
we'll talk. And we had before all this went national. You were talking about this on the show.
Yeah.
But now obviously a lot more people are paying attention.
Around the world now, apparently.
Yeah, but here's the thing for those who do find hatred, like you're just so angry and hateful because you disagree with the perspective you may hear. You don't have to live life that way.
I know.
You
yeah.
can disagree with people and not feel hate.
Right.
It
Right.
really is a very nice way to live life, I would argue.
Yeah.
It makes you happier. You're not angry all the time. You don't alienate yourself from friends and family that disagree with you. You don't have this sort of cult hive mentality and you don't just wake up angry and go to bed angry and get online to get angry and then wonder why it is that, you're depressed and sad and have psychological problems. Just start with not hating people just because they have a different perspective than you.
And that's how my daughter is.
Well, yeah.
And that's how Charlie Kirk was. I mean, he really would go to the university and face.
I think
all these
whenever,
people.
if we're to say, just because you have a different perspective, we don't hate you, I don't think they believe that. And
Yeah, I don't,
because
I,
I
I
don't
don't think.
think, and I understand that as a human, you by default, and people always say, put yourself in someone else's shoes. Well, we don't ever do that. What we actually do is put ourselves in our own shoes, but we're there standing. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so we are how we react emotionally to things. We think, well, that's how I would react. And so to say, we don't hate you, we don't, there's just not that part of it. In their minds, I believe that many of them think that that's just virtue
Well,
signaling.
yeah,
And it's like, it's not. We really don't hate you at all.
and the thing that I don't understand is, do you think all these comments are going to change our mind,
I
the
know.
way we believe?
Like,
I'm like,
you
what?
want my entire family to die in a fire. I never thought of that before. Maybe you're right. I think it's time for me to denounce my
Um,
Christian beliefs and
yeah,
my everything in life because I never thought die in a fire. That's a very good point, actually, from an
yeah.
intellectual position.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, people say, "Oh, you need to get a tutor for your daughter," and of course, then I became the subject of bashing. And I mean, obviously, it's not going to change us. So I don't know that.
I know you know this, but if you cannot argue without name calling or
Yeah,
saying something
exactly. That's
or
yeah,
saying something like that, well, you just need like that has nothing to do with the issue. And I would think that if any person were to stop and reflect on the fact that like you're not even arguing the facts here, like you're not countering her argument. You're just saying things like you're racist or you're homophobe or you need a tutor or this like that. And so the fact that you aren't even engaging in the actual issue itself, that should tell you
yeah.
something. Like
Actually,
you
yeah,
don't know what you're talking about, or you're just wrong,
yeah.
perhaps. So okay, well we'll
Take a
go
break.
over some of the details here, and that is a big bag of halls.
I know. Believe me, I've been in court and depositions and doing
You
interviews.
need to come to our happy hour at Vineyard Market Friday and have a hot toddy. That'll help.
Ooh, that might help.
Or 7.
I know.
No in between.
This week, I think I'm entitled to it.
Yeah, I'd say so.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see a slight chance of flurries after 4 p.m., otherwise partly sunny skies with a high near 34. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 23. Friday, sunny skies with a high near 47. And taking a look at Saturday, mostly sunny with a high near 49.
All right, Christy Filnecki is with
Yes,
us,
good morning.
and we're talking about, of course, your daughter Samantha. And a few weeks ago, you were telling us about this
Yeah.
situation she was having with one of her classes, and of course, it has become something that is of national news. And we will talk with her at some point, hopefully when she's in town, and we can have her in studio. Your next best thing, and
Yes.
oh, understandably, a lot of people don't really know exactly even what the foundation of this was.
Yeah.
And I think part of what has fed that is the part of the story in which the was it even the professor? It was a professor assistant. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
The
Okay,
TA,
the
teacher's
TA,
assistant.
which is transgender, and that's not what the T stands for in TA. It's a ETA, transgender teacher's assistant. TTA. So the TTA had noted part of the reason that she got a 0 out of 25 is that, and correct me if I'm incorrect on any of this, that she didn't provide empirical evidence. And because that was in some of the stories, people are saying, well, did she provide evidence in the story? Thinking that, well, that's why she failed. It didn't have anything to do with her Christian beliefs. But when you are given an assignment, you are told, okay, here are the things that you need. And empirical evidence was not one of the requirements. That's not what the assignment was.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay.
Well, it's so. Do you want me to just tell you?
Yeah. So tell, because it was it the what was the assignment? And then what did she do? What did they? So give us.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard there's all different versions
Of course.
all over the country and the world, apparently. So the week before Thanksgiving, she was talking to Eric and I on the phone, and she said, "Oh, this actually there were 2 assignments. The discussion post, I got a really bad grade because I was talking about the Bible. So this is something different." And then we're on the phone with her, and she said, "Oh, this TA just gave me a 0 on this paper, on this essay where I quoted the Bible." And the first thing as a mom, I said, and an attorney, did you follow the instructions?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's what the whole crazy thing is.
Yeah.
Do you think that it would have been this big story if she wouldn't have followed the instructions? And so she said yes. The prompts were, to read the article, to write a thoughtful essay, but it was all based on your opinion.
Right.
And so,
the article was about gender norms, right?
Right,
And
right.
so it was read this article and then give your thoughts on it. Okay.
yeah, there was nothing about citing evidence. There was nothing that nothing.
Yeah,
in
that
there-
wasn't the assignment.
Yeah. And for some reason, I don't know, the way that it was written, you could see what the other kids wrote. And so she was saying at the time, all these kids have the same response. I think they use Chat GPT for their answers. So hers was very different. And she said, I quoted the Bible, but she said, I didn't have to cite it. And as an attorney, of course, I said, you don't have to cite anything. That's your opinion. And so anyway, after this, we were trying to talk about what to do. And she said, well, I want to send an email, but I don't know who to send it to.
Well, and can I also just do?
Yeah, go
and the citation of the Bible wasn't simply like because Jesus loves you. I mean, it was in the context of the issue itself. It was regarding gender, and so she was weaving into her thoughts sort of references to gender aspects of the Bible.
Right.
So it was relevant, is what I'm saying. I just want to make sure people
relevant.
understand that.
Yeah, it was responding.
She did the assignment.
Right.
I mean, she
And it was
did the
responding.
assignment. Yeah.
I could go through all the details, but
Right.
it would take so long. So basically, she was asked for her opinion, and then she gave her an opinion that was reflective on what the assignment was.
But it hurt the TTA's feelings.
Oh, yeah.
Is what it boils down to.
So we had this, but when this comments from the TA, that's getting all the confusion came out, was the email back. Because I said first, because she said, what should I do? I said, you should email the TA, because if you go to the dean or somebody, they're going to say, did you discuss it with your instructor? That's the first thing, kind of your protocol that
Right.
you use.
Mhm.
So she emailed the professor, and the professor said, I'm not changing, or TA, I'm not changing your grade. And that's when she started saying empirical evidence. And then she said that she was something about insensitive, and then about she needs to have more empathy in her writing and empathy. I was enraged
Right.
when she was talking. She. The thing is, we didn't even know this person was trans.
Right, yeah.
We thought Mel was a woman, but she looked kind of masculine. We didn't know she was trans until Turning Point broke that story. And so it was so crazy because she started saying all this stuff and about being insensitive and so then when she replied back, there was another. I'm surprised that they haven't covered that. There was another TA that doubled down on what this Mel woman wrote. Woman, man, that's really confusing to me. But so she emphasized that and said that she, I don't know, she needed to be more sensitive to whatever. It wasn't anything that you didn't follow the assignment. You didn't.
Sure.
Yeah. So all the crazy liberals are picking up on the email that she said empirical evidence, which was not in the rubric of the class, which was not in the instruction.
It wasn't the assignment.
Yeah, it wasn't the assignment. And so then the other TA, I mean, she was backing up what she was saying. So there said, and she was given a 0. She wasn't even getting any points for writing it. That's what was so
They were
crazy.
mad. They were,
right.
It was an emotionally unhinged reaction to something that hurt their feelings.
Yeah, and they said that she was geared towards a minoritized population. I don't even know what that is. And I thought, oh, really? Which we haven't said anything, but I thought minoritized were Comanche Indian of all minorities, and you're saying that to my daughter?
So, like, first off, you're on stolen land.
Exactly.
Person.
Yeah, you know, I've been on the show 10 years, and I still don't know what to call them. So the man, woman, they, whatever. But so I'll say she because her name as a TA was Mel. So then she said, okay, what am I supposed to do? I said, we got to email maybe your dean. And then we started coming up with the emails. And then she had some ideas. But where it really picked up was when we copied the editor of the Oklahoman. Well, because, you know, I've had some experience doing this. So I might copy the newspaper because if the, you know what, if the university doesn't respond, if nobody responds, and another good thing besides copying Oklahoman was that we copied. So Ryan Walters, he's been on Fox a lot and is involved with the Trump administration, but he's a former superintendent of Oklahoma who wanted to put the Bibles and the 10 Commandments on the walls in all the schools. So he's, you know, he's really popular in conservative movement. So Ryan has been very helpful.
Did we have him as author of the week once? We had someone from a university in Oklahoma. I wonder if it was in. Sorry to side.
He was the superintendent of the whole state. And so that's what the position was.
Got it.
Okay. And he's with Teachers Freedom Alliance now and very involved with the Trump administration. So he's helped a lot. And so we copied him and we copied the Oklahoman. And nothing really happened until it came out in the Oklahoman. And the day it came.
Good for them.
Yeah. I mean, they're a liberal paper, but still, they ended up writing a story. And that's how. Because actually, we didn't even hear. She still hasn't heard from the president of OU or anyone. They haven't responded.
Well, let me ask this, and then I've got a number of other questions, and I'm sure some other people do who have texted in. And some of my questions are probably kind of goofy, but I don't know. I just think of different weird things sometimes.
Oh yeah,
where does the grade stand at this point? Because I thought I saw some response from the university saying, "Well, we've worked it out to where her grade isn't going to be negatively impacted by this." But maybe I'm wrong.
2 grades out.
Okay.
And then so it's not affecting her grade.
So they didn't regrade it. They just took those numbers out of her grading.
Yeah, and then actually the rest of her grades, because she had been given 100%. On everything, she had a total straight A in the class when this happened.
So instead of grading it properly, they're just like, let's just pretend this didn't happen.
Oh yeah,
is that
they want us to go away? I can tell you.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, and so
they don't understand.
For her class, it's being graded by the dean of psychology, the head of the psychology department, and so then they put somebody totally maybe the head of the psychology department in front of, or in charge of that whole class.
Well, let me tell you, and Morgan and I were talking about this, and you know this. We have friends that have talked about their children
Oh, yeah.
that have had to, like, the little essays or whatever you write to apply to universities that are 100% out of line with their actual beliefs, but have said, well, this is what you have to write to get in. That increasingly young people, all they're doing is writing. Anytime there's a paper that deals with something that is political or social, they don't write what they actually think or believe as they're told to. They write what it is that they know they're supposed to believe.
Right.
And what a disgusting and vile shame that is.
Yeah, and I have 3 kids in college right now, and it's happened to all of them.
Yeah.
And so I mean, thank goodness, because they have examples, and Eric and I, that they're not going to do that. I mean, they're not going to compromise their principles, because I mean, the thing that I think, honestly, as somebody that has been in a lot of school, a lawyer, and then Eric, a doctor, I mean, college is such a waste of money. And the only reason that we and our kids have to go is because we're professionals.
Yeah.
And that's why we're so focused with, I mean, I'm not like the tiger mom, the Chinese mom, but we're so focused on grades. And we always had that. We gave our kids money when they were young to get good grades. And that's all. Our kids have straight A's. Like all 6 of them have straight A's. And in high school, junior high, college, because we instilled that if you want to be a professional, that's
Right.
something you have to do. And they're very disciplined. So that's why people are like, oh, it was just a essay.
Yeah.
Well, it's because it's so it's hard to
and
get
it's
in medical
wrong.
school. Right. And so, yeah, right.
We got to take a break.
Oh,
We'll
yeah,
take
I
a break.
figured
We'll
we did,
continue on
and
with
then-
Kristi
okay.
Polnecki here. We're talking about, of course, her daughter Samantha, who has made international news at this point
Yes.
because of this. Which a point I do want to ask you about, because I think some people may have a misunderstanding as to like what some people may see as a motivation in all this. So I want to talk about
yeah.
that coming up. Kristi Polnecki, I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see a slight chance of flurries after 4 p.m., otherwise partly sunny with a high near 34. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 23. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 47. And taking a look at Saturday, mostly sunny with a high near 49.
Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Any home buying needs, any home selling needs, or just advice. If you are thinking about perhaps putting your home in the marketplace, but you got to, quote, do stuff beforehand. This is a lot of what a lot of people do. Like, well, we got to sell, but we know, the carpet's old. We need to switch that out, and we got to paint because the paint's so old, and those fixtures are outdated. We need to change that. Don't change a single thing until you first consult with Emily Johnson, because there are some things that you might need to upgrade that you haven't thought of. There may be some things that upgrading's not going to help you move the house at all or get anything more out of it. Times change. What people in the marketplace look for change, sometimes on almost a daily basis, and that's what she's in tune with. So before you even change out a light switch, make sure that you first visit with Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. And Christy Fulnecki is with us.
Yes,
we're
good
talking about your daughter, Samantha, that has been making all sorts of headlines because of this battle, this conflict, whatever you want to call it, regarding a 0 grade she got because it was insensitive, among other reasons, according to the TA. And what the university did, they didn't have it regraded, but just kind of said, well, let's just pretend the assignment never happened. So no 0, no nothing, doesn't impact your grade. I think a lot of people, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, and I'm basing this off of some comments that I heard Samantha make on one of the interviews. I think some people think this happened because Samantha was looking for, she knew what was coming. Like, she thought, this is my time, this is my battle, I'm going to create this battle. And I think people on the left particularly assume that because they do that a lot. They will find a Christian that they will go to make a cake for a gay wedding. They look to have these fights.
Yeah.
But I kind of got the impression that that this whole conflict was almost out of left field, that it wasn't anything at all, that she just, she was asked, the assignment was, here, read this article on gender ideology and so forth, and give your thoughts about the particular issue. And that's what she did. And being a Christian, many of those thoughts came out of references in Scripture regarding gender specifically. And she just did the assignment, and it kind of caught her out of left field that this happened. So is that correct?
Yeah.
This wasn't...
There's so many different stories about this, and then we're getting all these accusations that I'm behind it and that I'm, orchestrating this. And for one thing, that Samantha, out of my 6 kids, is the most non-political person. She does not, when we always have, I would talk about some of our family dinners and the things that, we're debating. And obviously there's 6 of us and my husband and I, so there's 8. And then we have a grandson now. So we're talking about politics all the time. She is the one that doesn't care about politics and doesn't care about, but she is very strong in her faith. And so people that think that she did this on purpose, they have no idea. And she just, and I do want to give a shout out to Senator Shane Jett. He's a senator in Oklahoma. He's, besides Ryan Walters, he's been very supportive of Samantha. And so the legislature gave her, I guess it's like a resolution or a gift yesterday, and presented it to her, and she spoke and interviewed in front of a lot of the legislators of the Freedom Caucus of Oklahoma.
And I don't know what goes on in Oklahoma. And that's awesome. That's nice. But at the same time, it's like, okay, this is a university. Is something going to be done about it? You know what I mean?
He's actually, I think he's listening right now, Senator Shane Jett. So I would hope that.
And maybe. Yeah. But I just feel as if this is such a deep problem in this country. Yeah. And every so often, one out of Lord knows how many examples manages to catch public fire like this one, and then you will have that one instance, a battle fought over it, and maybe even won, but that's not the problem. That's one of many symptoms of a massive problem. And so, and I'm not saying this is what's happening there, but what will sometimes happen is, oh, let's do a big symbolic, you're awesome, here's a resolution, but nothing changes.
Yeah.
You still have, for this instance, I can't imagine how many thousands of students have either just taken the bad grade, or they just lied about, they wrote a paper catering to what it was that they knew their professor was wanting to hear.
Yeah, we've received a lot of messages, and Samantha has, from OU, but from other universities, and then I've been receiving messages, like hundreds of them, and from different kids that this has happened to, and either they didn't stand up or they're trying to go through the process.
Which I get.
Yeah. But I mean, I really think that they're going to, at least in this instance, I really think it sounds like Senator Jett and then these other people in Oklahoma and the governor, she's supposed to meet with the governor next week or 2 weeks or something. I think they're actually going to do something.
Well, I hope so. And I would also say that this, to me, appears publicly as a battle between a student and a TA. And you see these stories, oh, a professor here did that, and a professor here. That professor or TA is generally a reflection of the entire culture of the entire university. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So even if, oh, good, they got rid of that professor. But guess what?
Well,
the president of the university, who is cut from the same cloth, is still there.
Yeah.
And I'm not, again, I don't know all the details of the players involved at this particular situation, but this is so much deeper and widespread as a problem in our universities than we oftentimes treat it.
A perfect example is that there was the other TA that said, I agree with Mel, with this other TA. So you have other people, that ain't even reported, but there are other people in that same department that's felt the same way. But it's funny with Samantha that it's just, she is the sweetest person. And so like the first couple of days were hard because she was getting like what, and they saw when I went through city council and or January 6th, and I had Antifa, or at the one point I had all the Satanists that were against me in the United States. So she's seen that happen to me, but it's never happened to her before. Yeah. So it was hard, but then, we just figured out, at least on our own, all of our social media, they've been going after how to turn off the comments so people outside of your friends can make it. So that's been a little bit easier for her. But
and I can imagine too, like she has seen what you have had to deal with, and I imagine in her mind she's like, well, okay, but this is what happens when you are involved in politics.
And she's not involved.
She's not. This is not at all. She was just doing a paper and doing the assignment.
So when she wrote it, that's what she was saying yesterday, that when she wrote it, she was like, she didn't even think it was controversial because she just thought it was her opinion and she was going to write it.
Someone had texted in, they wanted to know, because they said that, I think it was KY3 or somebody was focusing on saying that she was calling transgenders demonic or something. Oh, so what's that part of it?
Well, no, she was talking about how society getting rid of the two genders and pushing all of this on children, that was demonic in the culture and stuff. So she wasn't.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She was talking about
that. But again, even if you don't, the whole point is to present your opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I said you could have said anything. You could have said, the sky is purple, or, it doesn't matter. You don't. And this whole thing about, let me go back to finish my thought on Samantha, because I think it's so cute that, when she was with, I guess, the Oklahoma legislature, there, a couple of them were talking. She said last night when I was talking to her, they were like, do you know who this is? And, Ron DeSantis sent in, reposted her thing and was talking about her. And she was like, no, my mom told me he's governor of Florida. She knows who the president and stuff is.
Right. But she's.
And so they were like, do you know who this and this? And then last night, I couldn't believe it. The senator sent me a thing that Franklin Graham had made a post about it and talked about her. And I'm like, Samantha, Franklin Graham. She's like, what? That sounds familiar. So I was like, well, Billy Graham. She goes, okay, I know Billy Graham. And I was like, well, that's a sad.
Now, all that-
so she doesn't know
Right.
who any of these people
Now,
are.
all that being said, and I think this will be interesting for people. So people that probably listeners are like, that surprises me. She didn't know this person or that person. But she did get
Oh, yeah. So the big one for her.
that
And
this one, she not only was like, oh my gosh, this is.
And then this is the crazy thing. This happened in the very beginning when Turning Point, they were very supportive. Ryan Walters in the very, very beginning is Riley Gaines sent her a message through Instagram. And she said, you're a queen. You know, I support you, all this stuff. And then a couple of days ago, Ryan Walters and texted both Riley and Samantha, and they got them. So now they're talking.
So Riley Gaines.
Now Riley Gaines and my daughter was like, oh, I look up to her so much. She is like, you know, a rock star, and she said that how much she appreciated reaching out. So that was the one out of all of them was Riley Gaines that she was excited about.
There is what I believe has been evolving, and Riley Gaines is an example of it. And interestingly enough, much of it has come out of the transgender discussion. What I think is a true movement of what is truly strong, independent women. Because for so long, the opposite has been presented. You like people on the left, these protesters, and they will portray themselves, I'm a strong, independent woman, yet they want government to take care of this. They need government to take care of that. Like everything's about taking care of them and surrendering their actual gender. But you see the people like the Riley Gaines and Samantha Fulnecki and Chloe. I forget.
Yeah,
the girl who detransed. You know, she was convinced that she was.
She actually posted about Samantha.
Okay,
too.
and I'm like, this is a strong, independent woman, is what this is here. Truly strong and independent, and the fact that increasingly there are those individuals as role models for girls, as opposed to women who convince you need government to take care of you. You need to be, you know, I think is a very positive thing. So there's a lot positive coming out of this. Got to take a break. More with Christy Fulnecki. I'm Nick Reed. Christy Fulnecki with us this morning, discussing Samantha Fulnecki. Where is she in the line?
She's number 2.
She's number 2.
So Veronica is at LSU, Samantha is at OU, and then Abby is at the Naval Academy, and then that's another story. So
there are a lot of texts coming in of support.
It's nice.
I like this one sent in from the KSGF app. Just wanted to say that as soon as I heard the last name on the news, I laughed. Secondly, as a girl dad, good on Christy and her husband for raising a young woman that wouldn't shut her mouth and fall in line.
It's nice.
But it's hilarious. I'm getting you like, it's a full neck.
Oh, and you know all these crazies that, especially like once it started getting into the Springfield, you know, Springfield was a little bit late on what was going on, and so on some of the media here locally, they were saying, well, Christy's pushing this and she's making her do this. And I'm like, no, when you're a strong person, your kids become strong. Yeah. We taught them to stand up for what they believe
who they
in.
are. It's in the DNA.
And, you know, because none of those comments affect any of us because we know who we are, you know, and we're all saved and Jesus Christ is running our life. And so really, I tell my kids, to me, like, I didn't really realize, my calling and what God was calling me to do until I was saved. And so I'm telling my kids, I'm like, you've been thrust, you didn't, ask for this.
Kind of like Riley Gaines.
Yeah, right. But obviously, I mean, she knows that God wants her to do this, so she's very confident in speaking out with what she believes in.
There's probably some depth to this, but it's interesting because a lot of people out there, like, let's use as an example of Greta Thunberg, who is well known as a fighter and a battler, but she looked for that. Like, she went out there and in her mind had a cause, and I'm going to bring attention to my cause. But people like Riley Gaines and now Samantha Folnecki, and that's not what they were doing. They were just living life.
Right.
As and standing by their beliefs when somebody came along and tried to whack them off course, and they said, no, wait a minute, that's not right. And I think that there's something interesting to be said about the difference in people that are seen as out there for a cause that they wanted there to be a cause versus those who were not looking for it at all. It just happened organically because of their belief system.
Yeah, and you'll see a lot of politicians sometimes they'll say, "Oh, I'm a Christian." They'll go out and start quoting. She's, I mean, and we'll just still go back to being who we are after this. She started a Bible study at her sorority, which is in Greek life. It's not. It's very
sometimes
secular.
Can be conflicting.
Oh yeah, and so like when people are going out drinking and stuff,
Yeah.
I mean, she has a Bible study in her sorority, and she's a counselor at Kanakuk, and my kids went to Kanakuk, and
Clearly
she's
a horrible person.
yeah,
hate-filled.
and then she's involved in these other Christian groups in Oklahoma. So, I mean, this was part of her life. Like, it wasn't like she was looking for it. And I think that's probably why it just caught storm too, because really, I mean, this is, I think what God wants her to do is to stand up and be a spokesperson. But she's not going to do anything different than what she did before.
People, and I've gotten some text in on this, just through different versions of saying it, wondering if at some point Trump's going to, or J.D. Vance, like a retweet. If there's going to be some sort of, because this is the sort of thing, it has gotten enough attention, and it does resonate with average people that Trump, it's the sort of thing that easily I could see him.
Yeah, and the person that is the closest, at least in this, like what we're doing is Ryan Walters, because he's at Mar-a-Lago right now, and so, but he has spoken so highly of Samantha. I mean, he called her American hero, and all of this.
She's like, I was just doing an assignment.
I have finals, and I'm it's just so funny that they think we plotted this whole thing.
Yeah, but that's what the left usually does. That's why I say, and I'm not even saying that in a bad way, but I understand why. I think they genuinely believe that, because anytime there is, whether it's a gay marriage fight or a transgender fight, they set up the scenario to create the fight, to draw attention to it. So in their minds, that's what happened here.
Yeah. And then, well, I couldn't help myself on Twitter. So, I mean, when it first happened, because when it happens to you, you're like, well, whatever.
But your kids.
But, when it first happens to your kids, you're like, oh, I really
Kiki the Comanche comes out.
She gets really fired up, I'm telling you. And the mama bear was definitely like out in full force in the beginning. So I did make a few tweets, and a couple of them ended up in a few newspapers. But well, because like one, I said this person, I don't know, it was on Twitter. She was bashing my daughter, saying that she had needed empirical evidence. That's what they keep saying.
Right.
So I said, what's your education? You didn't read the instructions to the assignment. It was an opinion-based essay. Right. So then I said, oh, you're a journalist. That explains it.
Yeah. Well, that is true.
Yeah.
That's
I know.
Very
and
true.
so, yeah.
All right, traffic, and then another question for Christy Fulnecki coming up. I'm Nick Reed. Christy Fulnecki with us. All right, so
Yeah,
this is going to seem like a silly question. It is a silly question, but it is at the same time something that I genuinely have wondered. So here, Samantha, she's making new international news. There's a lot of attention. She's probably right now on social media, outside of some celebrity, the most talked about or discussed female.
What do you think?
Yeah. And strong, independent gal.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a pretty young lady. Has she, like, I
Yes.
okay.
Know what you're gonna say.
Like,
Yeah,
proposals, date,
Oh,
asking, because I was saying that to Morgan. I said, I said, you got, especially conservative guys that maybe aren't the best with you. Like, oh my gosh, my dream woman. Like, are you dating anyone?
Well, especially now, I mean, that there was, I think we were talking about it a couple weeks ago, but the men in that Gen Z are now becoming very, religious and spiritual.
Well, sure.
So, she's been getting so many. And then actually, the funny thing is, we were just talking about this last night because there was a couple of guys that sent me messages saying, do you think, they said, is Samantha single? Mm-hmm. And so they're asking me all these questions.
I knew this had to happen. This is why I did in my head. I have to know this.
And then he was in I don't know what state he was in. I think Michigan. And he said, I would drive all the way there just to take her on a date. And then I texted Samantha and I said, and to my oldest three and girls, and I said, hey, Samantha, do you want a boyfriend? And she's like, what? Who is that? I don't know. And so she just like went on to something else. But then she was saying, oh, yeah. I mean, she's just totally indifferent.
What does she want to do?
She wants to be a neonatologist or a pediatrician.
Okay.
Since she was probably 6 or 7, she wanted to be a neonatologist, and she loves babies and children. And so, I mean, she has such a sweet nature. And, my older daughter, I mean, they're all great, but her personality is more aggressive. And, but Samantha is very, sweet natured and kind and everything. But, yeah. And so there's been so many stories, but the local people will be interested in this. So when I was on state council, there was a Bond. Bond Tyndall wrote all this stuff about me, and so these newspapers.
She's just some activist gal, right?
Yeah,
lefty.
and this has been like 10 years ago. Wrote all this trash about me. So now all these newspapers are reprinting everything, and I thought, okay, this woman had mental illness at that time, so knock yourself out, because there was somewhere in Great Britain that printed it, and.
Like just for one of her tirades against you online for 10 years ago.
13
but that just is a demonstration of the mindset of people in the media today. So here's a story about a girl in this situation, or a young woman, I should say, at a university, and this issue. And to them, well, let's get online and see if we can find random people on the internet trashing her mom and write a story about that.
Oh,
you know what I mean? It's how it's so bizarre.
And the newspaper in Oklahoma totally wrote. That's what I was saying. They wrote an article that was supposed to be about our family, and the whole thing was about bashing me.
Were you like, oh, this all feels so familiar? Christy Fulnecki, well, thank you so much, and give Samantha our love, and like I said, hopefully when she's in town, we can just have her in studio. It'll be interesting once she is in town to talk with you about how things.
Finals.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Springfield's Talk 1041. Welcome, everyone. I hope you are doing fantastic. If you have missed any of the show, as always, podcast, Spotify, iTunes, the KSGF app, great place to get it as well. Ozarks Elder Law. If you haven't done the planning, then government ultimately has final say. Sometimes they may let you say. They may have they may take your opinion into account. Hospitals may do the same thing. There are a lot of assumptions we make that because it's family, because, it's my 18-year-old son. I can make medical decisions when he is in a car accident and cannot make those decisions for himself. Once he's 18, he's an adult. You do not get to make those decisions. And like I said, hospitals may defer to you, but if a hospital thinks, no, this is what needs to be done, and you disagree fully, they get the final say. And this includes spouses. This includes a lot of the people that you believe, erroneously often, that you will have the ultimate say in. Now, you can. That's where you have to have this stuff in writing and not from some $199 download from the internet. $199 download from the internet. Ozarks Elder Law, Ladies in White, their teams, they are the ones that can do it for you. 10 area locations. And the consultation doesn't cost you anything. So you might be someone that has no idea what you need to do in terms of what assets you have, or you own a home. Should I give it to my kids? Should I do this? What's the best thing to do? What about nursing home care? How to pay for that? They will go through what you need to do in order to make sure any of these potential unknowns you are secure and taken care of. And that consultation, that does not cost you anything. Then they will tell you up front, in order to get these things taken care of and legal so you're protected, here is the cost. And it's one cost. So you know. Again, 10 area locations, incredible people, and just reach out to them. The site's pretty easy to remember, ozarkselderlaw.com. But if you do forget it, don't worry. Just go to ksgf.com. I'm sure you can remember that. Find Nick's endorsements, and you'll find Ozarks Elder Law under there. Santa's Angels underway. I'm going to hit you with a few things here as we do have Author of the Week coming up, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. All right, Santa's Angels underway. Once again, huge thank you to Wheeler Metals, our lead sponsor of our effort this year to collect gifts for kids that otherwise would not have them because they're not with their families for reasons that generally aren't good at all. Crown Power and Equipment, one of our adoption tree locations, as is Mexican Villa on South Campbell, Greene County Freight and Food Sales, Pinnaker, Chevy, and Republic. Now, if you happen to stop at one of the locations and they are out of kids, because we did have that happen at least at one, we were able to get that taken care of, but that tree could be empty once again. We just ask that you be patient with us and visit one of the other locations. We can only keep on top of it as best as we can, and I'll probably do another round today and see how all of the locations are doing. And so we just appreciate your patience, because I know it's frustrating if you drive to a location and there aren't any, like, got to go to the other location. But just remember, it's for an incredible cause, and all of the location info is at ksgf.com. As is your chance to win tickets to see Guns N' Roses when they perform at Thunder Ridge Nature Arena Saturday, September 12th. You can buy tickets for that event starting tomorrow at 10 a.m. You have until tomorrow at 9 a.m. to get registered to win a free pair of passes. And then the Godfather's Teachers Lounge pizza party. If you work at a school, you know what it's like. Pizza parties, a lot of times, whatever class gets the most pennies or gets the most donations of canned goods will get a pizza party. Pizza party is always for the classroom, but with Godfather's Pizza, we teamed up with them to do it in the Teachers Lounge for you all instead of those kids. Get signed up for that at ksgf.com. And then final two things, notations. Heroes Breakfast tomorrow at Scramblers, 6A to 9A. Free breakfast for veterans. Air Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical. Delta Roofing. Warriors Journey, Scramblers making that possible. And then our happy hour, 4 to 6, Vineyard Market in Ozark. And we'd love for you to come by for that. It's very busy. A lot of stuff going on. We're very busy people, aren't we?
We are very, very busy.
All right, we're going to have Author of the Week coming up in just a moment. And now the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see a slight chance of flurries after 4 p.m., otherwise partly sunny with a high near 34. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 23. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 47. And taking a look at Saturday, mostly sunny with a high near 49.
Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you, the Pyramid Roofing Company. If you've been putting off roof repairs, or you know that you need a new roof, but you think, oh, it's winter now, it's too late, we're going to just have to wait until spring now, that is not always the case. In fact, winter is one of the best seasons to get a new roof install. You have a shorter wait time, and sometimes you can even snag a deal. So if it is time to have the Pyramid team out to your home, whether it's time for a new roof install, or maybe you just want a health checkup on your roof before winter really hits, reach out to Josh today and schedule that free roof inspection. You can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Being Thursday, of course, means it is time for our Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. And our author this week, Aisha Taylor, her book, Navigating the Impossible, a survival guide for single moms from pregnancy through the first year of motherhood. Now, it's not her only book. However, it's the one that wanted to speak with her about. And I've got to tell you, thank you for being with us this morning. I really appreciate it. And I want to tell you the reason that I even learned of this book and reached out to see if I could have you on is because of a piece that you wrote in Breitbart. Regarding pregnancy centers that I thought, oh, this is such important information for people to know. And then I saw, oh, she's got a book, and so I'm gonna book her. So I appreciate you being with us. And before we get into, because I do want to talk about what you discussed in the piece in Breitbart, just tell us a bit about who you are, your story, and the book Navigating the Impossible.
So thank you so much, Nick, for having me on. I really appreciate you for inviting me. And so a short summary version of how I even came to the book is I was working in corporate finance, and I just felt a calling to leave my job to become a full-time entrepreneur. At that time, I had a personal finance blog for women, and I just felt like the Lord was leading me to pursue that full-time. So I ended up quitting my job to become a full-time entrepreneur, and then I got unexpectedly pregnant. And the father of my twins, my unborn twins, began to pressure me to have an abortion. I ended up saying no. He walked out, and then at 4 months pregnant, I became a single mom. And I went to a pregnancy center for support and really was able to build a village to come alongside of me, but it wasn't easy. And I just know that there are so many women who are in similar situations where they experience an unplanned pregnancy, become a single mom, and have no idea where to start. And I knew with my finance training and with my network it was still difficult, so I wanted to create a manual for women in similar situations to be able to know what to do and how to move forward after an unplanned pregnancy. And that is where navigating the impossible was birthed. It was through that pain, it was through that journey. And I just wanted to provide some hope and some help for other women who are in similar situations.
I want to reference here the piece that I read in Breitbart that, again, you wrote that prompted me to reach out to you. And ultimately, it was about oral arguments before the Supreme Court, First Choice Women's Resource Center versus Platkin. And you talk about in the piece, or write about, this experience, the pregnancy, and what it was that a pregnancy care center did for you. And the reason that I just feel it was so important for people to know this, I'm so grateful that you wrote this, is because one of the talking points that you oftentimes hear from those that are in the pro-abortion movement is that, well, pro-life people, they only care about the baby until it's born. And they portray pro-life individuals as not really caring about the mother. It's just an issue for them. And once the mother has the baby, they don't care any longer. And I know just from interaction and knowing folks that work at a pregnancy care center here and being involved in a certain capacity with Vitae Foundation, that these pregnancy care centers are just that. They are, and maybe you can talk a little bit about this as you wrote about in the piece, that pregnancy care centers are not centers that are there to convince you to have a baby and then off on your way. There's so much more.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. There is so much more to those centers. And for me, the experience that I had at the center was they cared deeply about me. And they also cared about the situation that I was in. And the funny thing about it is, when I was being pressured to have an abortion, full confession, I actually called to make an abortion appointment, but by the grace of God, they did not answer the phone. And I was one of many women. About half of abortions happen by women who are Christian. And I almost fell into that statistic because my plan was to make the abortion appointment and then go to Bible study. But then it was like the Lord stopped me from making the biggest mistake of my life and instead redirected me to a pregnancy care center. And these women, I just remember I was a mess even when I called. And they didn't rush me off the phone. They allowed me to cry. And just that gentleness, the love, compassion that I felt helped me to feel safe because I was being pressured to have an abortion and I wanted to parent my children. And these women didn't try and twist my arm, but they listened to me and helped me to develop my own voice to be able to have the courage to tell their dad that I was not going to terminate the pregnancy, that I was going to have them. But their support extended beyond that moment. And so even after I decided to parent, I still stayed connected with them through their parenting program. So I was meeting with a counselor. I was taking parenting classes. And through that, I was earning baby bucks to be able to shop in their facility for certain items that I needed for my babies. I was able to get free diapers, wipes, baby food, formula. I got baby equipment. I even received baby clothes. I received community referrals to a baby safety class. I remember I was going to pay for a baby safety class because I thought that was important. But through the pregnancy center, I actually learned about a baby safety program where I could take a baby safety class for free. And upon completion, since I was having twins, I was able to get 2 free car seats. And that saved me a lot of money. So I not only received tangible material assistance, but the love and compassion that I received from them was priceless. And I just remember when I found the pregnancy center, actually the sonographer at my OBGYN's office told me about it because she saw me crying and she knew that I was a Christian. And I remember my sonographer encouraging me, saying, "You don't know what God is going to do with this experience." And she also directed me to that pregnancy care center where I was able to be encouraged, loved, and just cared for during a very difficult time. And very few people in my immediate circle even knew what I was going through. So these women really stepped in as a village of support for me and helped me to find the voice to say yes to the pregnancy I wanted, but also helped me to be able to have that conversation with my family, to invite them in to what was going on in my life.
We're talking with our author of the week, Aisha Taylor. The book, Navigating the Impossible, a survival guide for single moms from pregnancy through the first year of motherhood. And I do want to ask a question specifically about the book coming up, but I wanted to make another point here, because when we talk about the pregnancy care centers, understandably so, we imagine the single moms. But I know, just again, in the experience I've had, not as a recipient of the services, but just working with pregnancy care centers, is that a lot of times there is a father involved, but a father is also scared, particularly if they're young and maybe not financially steady. And so they offer the services to help fathers be fathers as well, which is something that I think oftentimes isn't recognized.
Yeah, definitely. There are a number of pregnancy care centers across the nation that have fatherhood initiatives and fatherhood support. I've heard of, and I know of, pregnancy centers that have men who are volunteering in the center, who will meet with the man while the woman is even having her intake and consultation, and that they do have fatherhood programs to help men, especially younger men who've never been a father before. And some of them might not even have dads themselves, so they don't even know what it looks like. But to have a positive male figure come alongside of these men too. And I think that that's definitely important, that the pregnancy center offers that.
The unexpected pregnancy in particular is something that it just, and I imagine if you've never had a child, it's emotional chaos. It is, I have no idea what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do. And this may sound overly simplistic, but anything in life, I think it helps to, quote, have a list. And you talk about having a roadmap to guide you through it. Tell us about the roadmap and the importance of that roadmap.
Absolutely. Training
Maybe.
where
Right.
everything, especially with month end. And so for me, I just took that, and it's just not me. I truly believe the Holy Spirit allowed me to be able to even come up with this, because I didn't want to write the book, because it required me to be transparent and vulnerable with people about what was going on in my own life and what I experienced. And so I think it's really important to be able to have a start. I kind of look at it as a what to expect when you're expecting, if you've experienced an unplanned pregnancy and you're going to be a single mom. And what the roadmap is the book is written in terms of where it takes women through building their faith. And I think a big piece of an unplanned pregnancy, especially if you're coming from a faith-based perspective, you can feel a lot of shame. And for me, I felt so much shame. I felt like I was a disappointment to God. I felt like I was letting my family, my friends, and my church down because I experienced an unplanned pregnancy. And I was so embarrassed that for a period of time, I went to a totally different church campus because I was afraid to run into somebody that I knew. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was to combat the shame that women face and to let them know that they are still loved by God. Jesus did not take away his salvation from them because they've experienced an unplanned pregnancy, and to let them know that they are loved and to help guide them through strengthening their faith through this situation, to have that rock of Jesus Christ that they can lean on. And so I do a lot about faith-based in the very beginning. And then from there, I take women through building a support system during their pregnancy, while they're having that their birth, and after their pregnancy. I think it's so important to be able to know who you can rely on and who is in your village. That's super important. And then from there, we move on to finances, helping them to be able to build a budget, helping them to know what to spend money on and how to save, how to build their credit, and just real tangible what to do if they run out of money, and how to not have shame if you need to, or if they need to rely on some sort of support or ask for help for a temporary period of time. And then just real life things, how to grocery shop, how to go on outings with your kids, what to spend money on in terms of building a nursery. And then the book concludes with hope for a future, and to know that God still has a purpose and plan for their lives, even though they've experienced an unplanned pregnancy. And my goal was to give these women the same hope that my sonographer gave me when she said, just imagine what God is going to do with your story and what you're doing. And it gave me hope to know that my life wasn't over, my dreams weren't over, and God's purpose and plan for my life was not over just because I became a single mom and experienced an unplanned pregnancy. And I wanted women to understand that that is not just true for me, but it is also true for them.
Our author of the week, Aisha Taylor, the book Navigating the Impossible, a survival guide for single moms from pregnancy through the first year of motherhood. One final question, and then any final thoughts that you have. A lot of people listening may not necessarily find themselves in the position of being an unexpected single mom, but there are probably more people listening who know someone that does. I think a lot of times when we know someone personally, we want to say the right thing. We want to do the right thing, but we don't want to offend. We don't want to upset. What would you recommend is a great way, like what is a good approach? What should someone do or say to someone who is scared and doesn't know what to do? And then maybe as importantly, what would you recommend those people not say while they're trying to help?
I love this question because I think that so many people have good intentions.
Yes.
And they don't know where to start. And so one of the things that I would say is if you know somebody who is going through that situation, just listen. Please do not say you got yourself into this situation and you have to get yourself out of it. Please don't say that. I know when I told my parents that I was pregnant and I was going to be a single mom, my parents loved me. They loved me, and they reassured me that they were going to be there for me regardless, and that they still love me, and that they will love their grandkids. And if you're a parent who has a child who is experiencing an unplanned pregnancy, let them know that you love them regardless, and that you will be there for them. I think that that's the single most important thing that you can do. And if you don't have a child, but let's say you know somebody through church or through work or, some other type of avenue, ask these women how you can help. Because for me, I was afraid to ask for help because even though no one told me that you got yourself into this and now it's your job to deal with it, no one told me that. I felt that. Because I was embarrassed. And so having women tell, and even friends and family say, how can we help? At times I didn't know what help I needed. So taking the next step to say, I'm here to help. Here is how I can help. Because you know your skills, you know your time the best, and you know your availability. And so even if, like I had a friend of mine who was also one of my neighbors, she said, hey, I want to help. I love to cook and I batch cook. So if you're open to it, I can double the recipe and make freezer meals for you. And so that way you can take them out and thaw them. And I was like, I never thought about that. That is a great idea. In the same neighbor, she would come to my house and she would wash baby bottles for me. I had another friend who said, you know what, she didn't have kids, but she loved kids. And she said, you know what, just let me know, or here's a schedule. Here's when I'm free. I can come to your house and sit with your kids and play with your kids while you go take a shower. Or we can talk and I can just hang out with your kids while you do your laundry or things like that. So giving them ideas of how how you can help. If you love pets, some of these women who've experienced an unplanned pregnancy have pets. Maybe offer to pet sit for them, so that way they can have one less thing that they can do. So just offering your support, but giving them also ideas for how. And if you're connected with a faith community, speak to your church about ways that they can come alongside of women who are experiencing a single mom, Christmas is a great opportunity. Maybe talking to your church to see, hey, maybe we can adopt families, single moms in the church community to maybe buy Christmas gifts for her kids or give her a gift card, and thinking about services that you can do. Maybe the women, if they own a house, might need somebody to mow their grass in the summer. And just thinking about how the church community, if you're connected with the church, how the church can become a village for these women as well.
I think you could write an entire second book on this subject. On this, this could be the follow-up to Navigating the Impossible, because just right off the top there. I mean, a lot of things. Even I like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's a really good idea. It's not the sort of thing I would thought of. Any final thoughts today?
Well, Nick, thank you so much for having me on. I so appreciate you just allowing me the space to be able to talk about the book and to talk about how people can come alongside of single moms and encourage the single moms who might be listening. And so just the final thoughts that I would say is that I truly believe that all of us are the hands and feet of Jesus Christ, if you are a believer. And if you're not a believer, we are all a part of community with each other. And I think that it's so important to be able to encourage women who or even the men who have experienced an unplanned pregnancy, being able to encourage them hope, being able to help them, I think goes a long way. Because one of the things that I don't think people understand is that when women make that decision to carry their pregnancy, it is an everyday decision that they are choosing life for that baby until they have birth. Because there are a number of states that have abortion laws through birth. And so just being able to show up, support, encourage her, and let her know that there is hope through the pregnancy and after is just so important. And just being a part of the village to help these women thrive during pregnancy, after pregnancy, and helping just their children as well. I just think that it's just important to just give people hope and to show people love and compassion. I think it's more important than any of us can ever imagine. I think about when I was pregnant, just the words of hope really were what helped me to get through that very difficult time.
Our author of the week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone, Aisha Taylor, Navigating the Impossible, a survival guide for single moms from pregnancy through the first year of motherhood. Thank you so much for spending time with us this morning, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you as well.
All right, have a wonderful rest of your day. This is Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. All right, before traffic, the FBI has arrested a suspect in the D.C. pipe bomb case after 5 years of an investigation. And after less than a year of Trump being president, of course, 4 years of the Biden administration and the Comey, Christopher Wray folks incapable of apparently tracking this individual down. Now, the individual is in federal custody. The suspect is a male who is living in Virginia. And this is the information from Fox News. So far, authorities discovered that that's just background. Video footage, the suspect was seen. Okay, so it's developing. Right now, there's not a lot of information other than I think that this is interesting and relevant that it is a male. And I say that because it was a few weeks ago, there was the specific name and picture of a woman floating around on the internet with claims that that was the suspect, that it was a female Capitol Hill police officer, current or former, I forget. And you know, I remember being somewhat intrigued that there were some sites that, and we're talking about legitimate sites, posting that this was the individual that was the suspect, and then it just seemed as if there was nothing after that. And so the fact that according to the reports, a male has been arrested as a suspect in that is, you know, it just makes me wonder what was the deal with that first person. Where did that information come from, especially given that it was so specific? So anyhow, this is obviously developing with the arrest by the FBI of someone that is considered a suspect in the laying of those those pipe bombs outside the RNC and DNC headquarters, you know, on January 6th, and in that entire situation. All right, so very intriguing. Let's just hope he doesn't suicide himself. That's just what we need, isn't it?
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see a slight chance of flurries after 4 p.m., otherwise partly sunny with a high near 34. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 23. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 47. And taking a look at Saturday, mostly sunny with a high near 49. And Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air, the nights there, obviously they're getting colder, and there's nothing worse than when you go to flip on the heat and nothing happens. Don't let that happen to you. Make sure that you really pay attention to the signs before it's too late. If your heating unit is making loud noises, or you have uneven heating throughout your home, or maybe you have low airflow coming out of your vents, or even a higher than average utility bill, those are all signs that repairs are in the future, and it's very important to pay attention and to get it checked before they lead to more costly repairs in the future. If it's time to have the Foreman team out to your home, don't wait. Reach out to Russell today. You can find all of the contact information for Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
One of the big news items of today, and I'm sure, I know a lot of unanswered questions at this point, but the announcement by the FBI of the arrest of a man from Virginia that was or is the suspect behind the pipe bombs left at the RNC and the DNC on January 5th. Before January 6th, of course, and that is pretty much all the information that is out there at this point. So I haven't even seen any word of. This seems like the sort of thing that you'd have a Kash Patel press conference over, of all the things to get out there in front of the media. And I don't know if this is. I've not even seen reports as to whether or not this is an official release as much as a leak. It just the arrest has been made of a suspect is what the reports are saying at this time. So that clearly is something that there's going to be a lot of discussion on today. And furthermore, whether this was just some random person or I'm really intrigued because the implications of whomever this person is could be widespread. I suspect if the thing of it is the behavior of law enforcement around it and surrounding it, and everything screams it was a, quote, inside job. And so if this is someone that somehow, if we're told, has no connection to anyone whatsoever, just some random person, that's going to be a very difficult thing, I think, for a lot of people to believe. But we'll see. There's a piece in all places in the Daily Beast, which is extremely left-wing. But they do oftentimes write relevant pieces that bring to light information that is significant and important and that gets legs and becomes mainstream. And they have a story about the Afghani man who allegedly shot the 2 National Guardsmen. And the premise of their piece is, how on earth could this person have made it through vetting of administrations? Well, one, the vetting process is a joke. It's vetting, it's vetting in name only, Vino, if I can spell. I mean, this is one of the severe problems that we have in this country is a lack of a legitimate vetting process, and it's been this way for a long while. But that being said, they use that as a launching point to explore what would have caused a guy to have traveled cross-country in order to kill 2 National Guard members with an attempt to kill more in the nation's capital. Like, why all of that? And they are saying that according to some of their sources, that he still has family in Afghanistan, and that as he was a former member of the Afghan Scorpion forces that work closely with CIA and so forth, and that essentially the Taliban, or at least forces within the Taliban, have his family and are using his family to force him or used them. We have your family. We've got these family members, and you're going to do this. Otherwise, your family will pay the price for it. Now, whether that turns out to be true, it wouldn't surprise me. Whether the motives are the fact that he came here deliberately out of anger to the United States because he felt betrayed and he had been planning this for some time, or he came here gladly and loving the U.S. of A., but something happened, changed his mind. And, we do know, according to witnesses, he yelled Allah Akbar. So there's that component, or if we do find out that it is because family was being threatened back home if he didn't do this, none of these things would surprise me. I don't think any of them discredit what is ultimately a real problem here, and that is, one, a real lack of a vetting process, two, the continued residual effect of the horrendous decision that Joe Biden made to pull us out of Afghanistan the way that he did, and a radicalization and almost this acceptance of hating America. It's just part of the old melting pot. All of these components are real severe problems in this country that are having real, unfortunately, meaningful results that are not in the best interest of the United States of America. So I just thought that may be a story that goes absolutely nowhere, and that may be based on nothing other than sources that the Daily Beast found to be interesting and potentially credible. But I did think that it was somewhat interesting perspective on, was this just a crazy guy that hated America, or was this someone that was doing it because families being held in harm's way by the Taliban? Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. I'd mentioned the announcement of an arrest of a man from Virginia, West Virginia, as a suspect in the January 6th, quote, bombing or pipe bombs. And that it was weeks ago, there were reports that it was supposed to have been a woman. And I said, so I'm be interested why the discrepancy on those reports versus what the arrest is. And someone had texted in, maybe it's a trans, and maybe I hadn't even thought of that, but that could, in this day and age, that's the sort of thing that, I guess it could be. That's why you have two different genders being. Now, it's over a different period of time, so it could have been a totally different reason, but that is a completely legitimate possibility regarding why it was at one point weeks ago reported to be a woman, and now there's arrest of a man. I was mentioning the vetting in name only of people coming to this country, particularly from terrorist nations. And to that point, Just the News had this story yesterday. The Biden administration created exemptions for people from Afghanistan who are actually members of the Taliban. Members of the Taliban. The exemptions were for Taliban members who worked as civil servants but were considered to be low level. So, you didn't have to worry about them. They were just the ones who followed orders. Well, gee whiz, I don't know about you, but that doesn't seem like the sort of person you want in the country. Those who just, quote, followed orders as members of the Taliban. Yet they were given exemptions. Part of the assurance, apparently, that we didn't need to worry about it is that the Biden administration said, well, sure, we made exemptions for some members of the Taliban, but they couldn't be people who shared the goals or ideology of the Taliban, because the Taliban, of course, was so well known for being an open tent and welcoming people within its organization that didn't hold the same beliefs and ideology. Are you out of your mind? They also said that any exemptions given to members of the Taliban to come to the United States under the Biden administration could not intend to support the Taliban through their activities. Now, how do you know that? I guarantee you the way that we, quote, knew that is we asked. Do you plan on supporting the Taliban or carrying out any terrorist activities if you come into the United States? Yes or no? Or maybe circle one. Well, we asked and they answered. After all, we can't not trust them. That would be racist. That nut job from The View and CNN commentator Anna Navarro trying to make a point of some sort regarding Trump and the focus on the $1 billion+ of fraud in Minnesota with the Somalian community, and going on CNN saying, well, why doesn't he say this about the Cuban community down in Florida? Because they know that of the millions of dollars of Medicaid fraud, like 75% of it's Cuban. Well, first off, you're talking about millions of dollars of Medicaid fraud. That is something that occurs all across this. I mean, that isn't something that is solely a Cuban issue. That is a nationwide issue. If you find a neighborhood in which 75% of the individuals in that neighborhood are Cuban, then you're probably, going to have 75% of the fraud. That's a nationwide problem. You're not talking about over $1 billion worth of money being funneled under the watchful eye of a governor who knew about it and was told. Not to mention, I suppose that sort of takes the he's a racist component out of it if he's not focusing on the Cubans. See you tomorrow for Heroes Breakfast at Scramblers.